The vast, empty expanse of space stretched out before them, a canvas of infinite possibilities. Yet for the members of the Galactic Council, a growing sense of unease had settled over their ancient chambers. Their eyes were fixed upon a small blue-green planet that rotated silently, oblivious to the momentous decision that was about to be made. After centuries of careful deliberation, the Council had reached a conclusion. Humanity, the dominant species of this insignificant world, would be the next to join their grand alliance. The Galactic Council prided itself on its ability to integrate diverse civilizations, to harness their unique strengths for the betterment of the entire collective. And now, it was humanity's turn. "The time has come," spoke the Grand Arbiter, his voice echoing through the cavernous hall. "Our scouting parties have reported that the humans have made remarkable advancements in recent cycles. They are ready to take their place among us." The other members of the Council nodded in agreement, their eyes shining with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. For while the Galactic Council had a long history of successful assimilations, there was always the lingering fear of the unknown. "We must approach this with caution," cautioned one of the elder counselors. "Humanity is a young and volatile species. Their propensity for conflict and their stubborn independence could prove problematic. That is why we must act swiftly and decisively," the Grand Arbiter replied. "The humans must be brought into the fold before they can pose a threat to the stability of the Council." With a wave of his hand, the Grand Arbiter summoned a holographic projection of the blue-green planet, its continents and oceans visible in intricate detail. "We will send a delegation to make first contact with the humans. They will be presented with the opportunity to join us, to become a part of something greater than themselves." The Council members murmured in agreement, their anticipation palpable. The prospect of adding another thriving civilization to their ranks was an enticing one, and they were eager to see the plan unfold. And so, the preparations began. Ships were readied, diplomats were briefed, and the stage was set for the momentous occasion. The Galactic Council's emissaries would soon descend upon the unsuspecting planet, their arrival heralding a new chapter in the history of both humanity and the ancient alliance. Little did the Council know, however, that their arrival would not be the grand, seamless integration they had envisioned. For on that small blue-green planet, a group of curious and resourceful individuals had already begun to uncover the truth about the Galactic Council's true intentions. In the bustling city of New York, Dr. Emily Sinclair, a renowned astrophysicist, studied the anomalous readings from her instruments with a growing sense of unease. Something was happening in the heavens above, something that defied conventional explanation. "This can't be right," she muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration as she pored over the data. "There's a massive object approaching the planet, and it's unlike anything we've ever encountered before." Across the globe, in the shadowy halls of a top-secret military installation, Colonel John Rawlings and his team of elite operatives were also monitoring the strange occurrences. Their sources had reported the arrival of an unidentified spacecraft, and they knew that time was of the essence. "We need to know what we're dealing with, people," Rawlings barked, his eyes narrowed with determination. "I want eyes on that ship, and I want to know who or what is behind it. This could be the biggest threat we've ever faced." As the Galactic Council's delegation descended upon the planet, the stage was set for a momentous confrontation. Humanity, unaware of the true nature of their visitors, was about to be thrust into a conflict that would test the very limits of their ingenuity, their resilience, and their determination to protect their home. The future of the entire planet hung in the balance, and the only certainty was that the arrival of the Galactic Council would forever change the course of human history. As the massive alien spacecraft descended upon the Earth, a growing sense of unease and uncertainty gripped the global population. The sheer size and unfamiliar design of the vessel sent shockwaves through the scientific community, and world leaders scrambled to mount a coordinated response. At the forefront of this effort were Dr. Emily Sinclair and Colonel John Rawlings, two individuals whose paths had collided in the face of this extraordinary circumstance. Sinclair, the brilliant astrophysicist, had been the first to detect the anomalous readings that had signaled the arrival of the alien spacecraft. Her colleagues had dismissed her concerns, chalking it up to a malfunction or a natural celestial event. But Sinclair knew better. Her instincts told her that this was something far more profound and potentially dangerous. Rawlings, on the other hand, was a seasoned military commander with a reputation for being uncompromising and ruthlessly efficient. As the head of a covert special operations unit, he had been tasked with gathering intelligence and neutralizing threats to national security. The appearance of the alien vessel had immediately put him on high alert, and he knew that time was of the essence. Together, Sinclair and Rawlings formed an unlikely alliance, each bringing their unique skills and perspectives to the table. Sinclair's scientific expertise and Rawlings' tactical prowess proved to be a formidable combination as they delved deeper into the mystery surrounding the alien visitors. "There's something not right about this," Sinclair murmured, her eyes fixed on the holographic display in the command center. "These readings don't match anything we've ever encountered before. It's almost as if they're not from this world at all." Rawlings, his arms crossed over his chest, nodded in agreement. "That's what I'm afraid of. We need to find out who or what is behind this, and we need to do it fast. The fate of the entire planet could be at stake." As they pored over the data and pieced together the fragments of information, a disturbing picture began to emerge. The alien spacecraft was not the benevolent exploratory vessel that the public had been led to believe. Rather, it was the vanguard of a much larger, more sinister force. The Galactic Council, a powerful alliance of alien civilizations with a history of conquest and subjugation. "They're not here to make peace," Sinclair said, her voice laced with a mixture of fear and determination. "They're here to assimilate us, to make us a part of their empire." Rawlings' jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing as he contemplated the implications. "Then we have no choice but to stand and fight. We can't let them take our planet without a fight." The two of them, along with their respective teams, worked tirelessly to uncover the truth about the Galactic Council's true intentions. They scoured through classified archives, hacked into secure databases, and pieced together a disturbing tapestry of information that painted a grim picture of the fate that awaited humanity. As the alien delegation made its first contact with the world's leaders, Sinclair and Rawlings knew that they had to act quickly. The Galactic Council's representatives were skilled diplomats, well-versed in the art of manipulation and persuasion. They would stop at nothing to achieve their goals, and the fate of the human race hung in the balance. "We have to warn them," Sinclair said, her eyes alight with a newfound determination. "We have to tell the world the truth before it's too late." Rawlings nodded, his expression grim. "Then let's get to work. We don't have a moment to lose." And so the race against time began, as Sinclair and Rawlings scrambled to uncover the full extent of the Galactic Council's plans and prepare the world for the impending confrontation. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and they were determined to do whatever it took to protect their home and their way of life. As the world's leaders gathered to greet the representatives of the Galactic Council, a sense of unease and uncertainty permeated the air. The arrival of these mysterious alien visitors had sent shockwaves through the global community, and everyone waited with bated breath to see what would unfold. But unbeknownst to the unsuspecting diplomats and politicians, a small group of individuals had already uncovered the truth about the Galactic Council's true intentions, and they were determined to stop them at all costs. At the forefront of this resistance were Dr. Emily Sinclair and Colonel John Rawlings, an unlikely duo whose paths had converged in the face of this extraordinary threat. They had spent countless hours poring over classified data, piecing together the disturbing puzzle that revealed the Galactic Council's true nature, a vast, ancient alliance of alien civilizations driven by a relentless hunger for conquest and expansion. "They're not here to make peace or to offer us a seat at their table," Sinclair had told Rawlings, her eyes burning with a fierce determination. "They're here to subjugate us, to strip us of our autonomy and integrate us into their empire." Rawlings had nodded, his jaw set in a grim line. Then we have no choice but to fight. We can't let them take our planet without a fight. And so they had set out to rally the support of the world's scientific and military communities, desperate to uncover the truth and warn the global populace before it was too late. As the Galactic Council's emissaries delivered their grand proclamations of unity and progress, Sinclair and Rawlings worked tirelessly to uncover the hidden technologies and ancient knowledge that could be the key to humanity's salvation. "There has to be something, some way we can fight back," Sinclair murmured, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she scored through the archives. "We can't just roll over and let them take us without a fight." Rawlings, his eyes narrowed with determination, nodded in agreement. "We're not going down without a hell of a fight. And we're going to need all the help we can get." And so, they set out to awaken the hidden potential of humanity, the untapped reserves of ingenuity, resilience, and sheer determination that had lain dormant for centuries. They'd reached out to the brightest minds, the most skilled technicians, and the bravest soldiers, rallying them to the cause. As word of the Galactic Council's true intentions spread, a wave of defiance and resistance swept across the globe. People from all walks of life, from all corners of the world, came together in a desperate bid to protect their home and their freedom. In laboratories and research facilities, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to uncover the secrets of ancient technologies, adapting them to the modern age and forging powerful new weapons. In military installations and covert operations centers, soldiers and strategists planned their counterattack, preparing to meet the Galactic Council's forces head-on. And at the heart of it all, Sinclair and Rawlings stood as the catalysts, the driving force behind this global awakening. They rallied the people, inspired them to action, and instilled in them a sense of unwavering determination. "We are not alone in this fight," Sinclair declared, her voice ringing out with conviction. "We are part of a proud and resilient species, a species that has faced and overcome countless challenges. And we will not be subjugated, not by any alien force, no matter how powerful they may be." Rawlings, standing beside her, echoed her sentiments with a nod. "We are humanity, and we will not go down without a fight. We will rise up, and we will show the Galactic Council the true strength of our kind." As the Galactic Council's representatives continued their diplomatic overtures, unaware of the storm that was brewing, the people of Earth began to stir. Hidden technologies were unearthed, ancient knowledge was rediscovered, and a newfound sense of purpose and unity swept through the global population. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the Galactic Council's empire, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. But the people were no longer willing to simply surrender. They had awakened, and they were ready to fight. As the Galactic Council's representatives continued their diplomatic overtures, cracks began to appear in the veneer of their carefully crafted facade. The murmurs of discontent, the whispers of resistance, had grown into a deafening roar that could no longer be ignored. Across the globe, the people of Earth had awakened, their eyes now open to the true nature of the Galactic Council's ambitions. Fueled by the passionate speeches of Sinclair and Rawlings, and armed with the rediscovered technologies of their ancestors, they had risen up to defend their home and their freedom. In the sprawling cities, crowds of protesters gathered, their voices echoing through the streets as they chanted slogans of defiance and unity. "No more subjugation," they cried. "We will not be a part of your empire." In the shadowy halls of military installations, seasoned soldiers and strategic minds pored over maps and battle plans, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. They knew that the Galactic Council's forces would not be easily deterred, and they were determined to meet them head-on. "This is our home, and we'll be damned if we're going to let them take it from us," Colonel Rawlings growled, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. "We'll fight them on the ground, in the air, and in the depths of space if we have to. We're not going down without a fight." Sinclair, standing beside him, nodded in agreement, her own resolve hardening with each passing day. "The people are with us, John. They're ready to fight, to do whatever it takes to protect our planet. We just have to give them the tools they need to do it. And so the resistance movement began to take shape, uniting the brightest minds and the bravest hearts in a coordinated effort to thwart the Galactic Council's invasion. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to reverse engineer the alien technologies, adapting them to human needs and forging powerful new weapons. In the skies above, fighter pilots honed their skills, practicing maneuvers that would give them the edge against the Galactic Council's advanced spacecraft. And on the ground, infantry units trained for urban warfare, ready to defend their cities block by block if necessary. As the diplomatic talks continued to stall, the Galactic Council's representatives grew increasingly frustrated. They had expected the humans to simply accept their offer of integration, to welcome them with open arms, but the people of Earth had other plans. "This is unacceptable," one of the counselors shouted, slamming his fist down on the table. "The humans are supposed to be grateful for the opportunity to join our great alliance. Why do they resist?" The Grand Arbiter, ever the picture of calm and composure, raised a placating hand. "Patience, my friend. This is merely a temporary setback. We have faced resistance before, and we have always prevailed. The humans will see the wisdom of our ways, and they will submit to our rule." But deep down, the Grand Arbiter couldn't help but feel a twinge of unease. The determination and resourcefulness of the human resistance was unlike anything they had encountered before. And as the days turned into weeks, the tension continued to mount, a storm brewing on the horizon. Sinclair and Rawlings, their eyes fixed on the distant horizon, knew that the confrontation was inevitable. The Galactic Council would not be deterred, and they would stop at nothing to achieve their goals. But this time, the humans were ready. "They have no idea what they're up against," Rawlings said, a grim smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "We're not going to roll over and let them win. This is our home, and we're going to fight for it, no matter the cost." Sinclair nodded, her own expression hardening with resolve. "Then let's show them what humanity is capable of. It's time to take the fight to the Galactic Council." The stage was set for a clash that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy, and the fate of the human race hung in the balance. The tension in the air was palpable, a tangible force that seemed to crackle with the anticipation of the impending confrontation. The Galactic Council's representatives, their patience worn thin, had made their final ultimatum: surrender or face the consequences. But the people of Earth, galvanized by the unwavering leadership of Sinclair and Rawlings, had made their choice. They would not bow to the demands of their would-be conquerors, not without a fight. "They're not going to back down," Sinclair murmured, her eyes fixed on the holographic displays that showed the massive alien warships assembling in the skies above. "They've invested too much in this invasion to simply give up now." Rawlings, his jaw set in a grim line, nodded in agreement. "Then we'll have to be ready for them. Our people have been training, and our weapons are primed. It's time to show the Galactic Council what we're made of." As the ultimatum expired, the Galactic Council's fleets surged forward, their massive ships blotting out the sun as they descended upon the planet. Fighters and gunships stringed out, their weapons blazing, as they laid siege to the world's major cities and strategic military installations. The battle was joined, a clash of two vastly different civilizations, each determined to emerge victorious. The skies above the planet erupted in a dazzling display of light and sound, as the human fighters engaged their alien counterparts in a desperate dogfight for control of the airspace. On the ground, the resistance fighters stood their ground, their newly acquired technologies giving them an unexpected edge against the Galactic Council's overwhelming firepower. Armored vehicles and defensive emplacements held the line, while specialized units conducted daring raids and sabotage missions to disrupt the enemy's supply lines and communications. But for all their courage and determination, the humans were vastly outnumbered and outmatched. The Galactic Council's forces pressed their advantage, raining down devastating bombardments from their ships and overwhelming the defenders with sheer numerical superiority. Sinclair and Rawlings, their faces etched with grim determination, watched the unfolding battle from the command center, their minds racing as they searched for a way to turn the tide. "We can't hold out much longer," Rawlings said, his voice laced with frustration. "They're hitting us harder than we anticipated, and our reserves are running low." Sinclair's brow furrowed in concentration as she studied the tactical displays, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. "There has to be something we're missing, some weakness in their strategy that we can exploit." Suddenly, her eyes widened, a spark of inspiration igniting within her. "That's it. John, I think I know how we can slow them down, maybe even give us the edge we need." Rawlings leaned in, his gaze intense. "Tell me." As Sinclair laid out her plan, a glimmer of hope began to emerge. It was a risky gambit, a desperate attempt to turn the tables on the Galactic Council's forces. But if it worked, it could buy them the time they needed to regroup and mount a more effective counterattack. The orders were given, and the resistance fighters sprang into action, executing Sinclair's audacious strategy with the precision of a well-oiled machine. The Galactic Council's forces, caught off guard by the unexpected maneuver, found themselves struggling to maintain their momentum. For a moment, the tide of the battle seemed to shift, the humans gaining the upper hand as they pressed their advantage. But the Galactic Council was not one to be underestimated, and they quickly adapted, pouring more forces into the fray in a desperate bid to regain control. The clash of the two civilizations raged on, a titanic struggle for the very future of the planet. And as the smoke and dust began to settle, one thing became clear. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the outcome of this confrontation would have far-reaching consequences that would echo through the ages. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke and the deafening roar of weapons fire as the battle raged on. The human resistance, battered but unbowed, had managed to slow the Galactic Council's advance, but they knew that their respite would be brief. Sinclair and Rawlings, their faces etched with a determined focus, huddled over the tactical displays, their minds racing as they searched for a way to turn the tide. "We can't keep this up much longer," Rawlings growled, his eyes narrowed with frustration. "Their ships are too heavily armored, and our weapons barely scratch the surface." Sinclair nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I know, but we have to find a way to hit them where it hurts. There has to be a weakness, something we can exploit." As they pored over the data, a glimmer of hope began to emerge. The Galactic Council's forces, for all their technological might, were not infallible. Their reliance on a centralized command structure, while effective in most situations, left them vulnerable to a well-executed counterattack. "That's it," Sinclair exclaimed, her eyes alight with a newfound determination. "If we can disrupt their command and control, we might be able to throw them into disarray and buy ourselves some breathing room." Rawlings nodded, a grim smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Then let's get to work. We've got a lot of people to rally and a lot of plans to put into motion." In the days that followed, the human resistance fighters worked tirelessly, their efforts fueled by a burning desire to protect their home. Scientists and engineers toiled around the clock, developing new weapons and strategies to counter the Galactic Council's overwhelming firepower. Soldiers and tactical specialists honed their skills, training for the daring missions that would be the key to their success. And across the globe, the people of Earth came together, their voices rising in a resounding chorus of defiance. "We will not be conquered," they chanted, their fists raised in solidarity. "We are humanity, and we will fight for our freedom." As the Galactic Council's forces pressed their advantage, the human resistance launched a series of well-coordinated strikes, targeting the enemy's command centers and supply lines. The attacks were bold, daring, and executed with precision, delivering a series of blows that left the Galactic Council reeling. Sinclair and Rawlings, their leadership at the forefront of the counterattack, watched with a mixture of pride and tension as their plan unfolded. They knew that the stakes were high, and that a single misstep could spell disaster for their entire species. "We're holding them off for now," Rawlings said, his gaze fixed on the tactical displays. "But they're regrouping, and they'll be back with a vengeance." Sinclair nodded, her expression grim. Then we'll have to be ready. This isn't over yet, not by a long shot. As the Galactic Council's ships scrambled to respond to the human resistance's onslaught, a new sense of hope began to take root among the people of Earth. They had proven that they were not simply going to roll over and accept their fate, and that they were willing to fight tooth and nail for their freedom. The battle raged on, with both sides pouring every resource and ounce of determination into the conflict. And as the dust began to settle, it became clear that the outcome of this confrontation would not be easily decided. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the Galactic Council was determined to assert its dominance. But the people of Earth had awakened, and they were ready to fight for their future, no matter the cost. The battlefield was a chaotic symphony of light and sound, as the human resistance and the Galactic Council's forces clashed in a titanic struggle for the future of the planet. Streaks of energy lanced through the skies, the roar of engines, and the thunderous explosions creating a deafening cacophony that seemed to reverberate through the very Earth itself. Sinclair and Rawlings, their faces etched with grim determination, stood at the heart of the maelstrom, their eyes fixed on the tactical displays that showed the shifting tide of the battle. The human counterattack had thrown the Galactic Council's forces into disarray, but the respite was only temporary. "They're regrouping," Rawlings muttered, his brow furrowed with concentration, "and they're bringing in more firepower than we've ever seen before." Sinclair nodded, her mind racing as she considered their options. "We can't hold them off forever, John. We need to find a way to turn the tide, to give us a decisive advantage." The Galactic Council's ships, their once sleek forms now marred by the scars of battle, had returned with a vengeance. Massive cannons and devastating energy weapons rained down upon the human strongholds, pulverizing their defenses and forcing the resistance fighters to fall back. "They're not playing by the rules anymore," Rawlings growled, his hands clenched into fists. "They're hitting us hard, and they're not holding back." Sinclair's eyes narrowed, a glimmer of an idea taking shape in her mind. "Maybe that's the key, John. Maybe we need to stop playing by the rules, too." Rawlings looked at her, his expression a mixture of surprise and intrigue. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," Sinclair said, her voice low and intense. "They're used to facing opponents who play by their rules, who try to match them on an even playing field. But we're not like them, John. We're human, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to protect our home." Rawlings' eyes widened as he realized the implications of her words. "You're talking about taking the gloves off, about going all in. Are you sure we're ready for that?" Sinclair's gaze was unwavering, her determination etched in every line of her face. "We don't have a choice, John. It's either that, or we lose everything. And I, for one, am not willing to let that happen." The decision was made, and the human resistance began to implement Sinclair's bold plan. They would no longer hold back, no longer play by the Galactic Council's rules. They would fight fire with fire, using every weapon and every tactic at their disposal to turn the tide of the battle. As the Galactic Council's ships continued their onslaught, the human resistance fighters unleashed a barrage of devastating attacks, using advanced technologies and unorthodox tactics to catch their enemies off guard. Cloaked drones and precision-guided missiles struck at the heart of the Galactic Council's command and control, sowing chaos and confusion in their ranks. The Galactic Council, caught off guard by the ferocity and unpredictability of the human resistance, struggled to maintain their foothold. Their carefully crafted strategies began to unravel, and their once formidable forces found themselves on the defensive. Sinclair and Rawlings, their eyes alight with a fierce determination, watched the battle unfold, their hearts pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They knew that they were treading on dangerous ground, that the gamble they had taken could backfire in the worst possible way. But as the tide of the battle began to shift, a glimmer of hope emerged. The human resistance was gaining ground, slowly but surely, and the Galactic Council's forces found themselves hard-pressed to keep up. "We're doing it, John," Sinclair whispered, her voice filled with a sense of wonder. We're actually doing it. Rawlings nodded, a grim smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. I'll be damned. I never thought we'd get this far. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the outcome of this confrontation would determine the course of their future. But in that moment, the human resistance had proven that they were not to be underestimated, and that they were willing to fight tooth and nail to protect their home. The skies above the planet were ablaze with the fury of 1,000 suns, as the human resistance and the Galactic Council's forces engaged in a titanic clash that would decide the fate of humanity. Streaks of energy lanced through the air, the thunderous roar of engines, and the deafening explosions creating a cacophony that seemed to shake the very foundations of the earth. Sinclair and Rawlings, their faces etched with a mixture of determination and trepidation, stood at the heart of the maelstrom, their eyes fixed on the unfolding battle. They had gambled everything on their bold plan, and now the fate of the world hung in the balance. They're hitting us with everything they've got, Rawlings growled, his hands gripping the edge of the command console. We're holding them off, but I don't know how long we can keep this up. Sinclair's brow furrowed in concentration as she studied the tactical displays, her mind racing to find a way to turn the tide. We have to find their weaknesses, John. There has to be a way to break through their defenses and take them down. The Galactic Council's ships, their hulls scarred by the relentless barrage of human attacks, surged forward, their weapons blazing with a ferocity that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The human resistance fighters, their own advanced technologies and unorthodox tactics in full display, met the onslaught with a determination that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The battle raged on, with both sides pouring every ounce of their resources and skill into the conflict. Fighters danced through the skies in a deadly ballet, their weapons carving swaths of destruction through the enemy ranks. On the ground, the resistance fighters deployed their most potent weapons, unleashing devastating barrages of precision-guided munitions and cutting-edge energy weapons that tore through the Galactic Council's defenses. Sinclair and Rawlings, their eyes locked on the unfolding chaos, knew that this was the moment of truth. If they failed to break the Galactic Council's momentum, they would be overrun, and all their sacrifices would have been for naught. We've got to hit them harder, John, Sinclair said, her voice taut with urgency. We need to find their weak points and exploit them to the fullest. Rawlings nodded, his jaw set with a steely determination. Then let's give them everything we've got. It's time to show the Galactic Council the true power of humanity. With a flurry of orders and tactical maneuvers, the human resistance fighters launched their most ambitious assault yet, pouring every ounce of their strength and ingenuity into the fight. The skies erupted in a dazzling display of light and sound as the two civilizations clashed in a battle that would determine the course of history. Sinclair and Rawlings, their eyes fixed on the tactical displays, watched with a mixture of pride and trepidation as their plan unfolded. They knew that the outcome was still uncertain, that the Galactic Council was a formidable foe that would not be easily defeated. But as the battle raged on, a glimmer of hope began to emerge. The human resistance fighters, fueled by their unwavering determination and the knowledge that they were fighting for the very survival of their species, began to gain the upper hand. The Galactic Council's forces, once seemingly unstoppable, found themselves struggling to maintain their momentum. Their carefully crafted strategies began to unravel, and their once overwhelming firepower proved insufficient against the human resistance's relentless onslaught. Rawlings, his eyes alight with a fierce triumph, turned to Sinclair, a grin spreading across his face. We're doing it, Emily. We're actually doing it. Sinclair, her own expression mirroring his, nodded in agreement. Yes, John, we are. And we're not going to stop until we've won this war. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the outcome of this final confrontation would determine the course of their future. But in that moment, the human resistance had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with, a species willing to fight tooth and nail to protect their home and their freedom. The dust had settled, the smoke had cleared, and the once pristine skies above the planet were now scared by the remnants of the epic battle that had raged. The air was thick with the acrid smell of burnt metal and the lingering traces of ozone, a testament to the sheer intensity of the confrontation that had decided the fate of humanity. Sinclair and Rawlings, their faces etched with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration, stood amidst the ruins of the command center, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the Galactic Council's forces. The battle had been long and brutal, a testament to the determination and resourcefulness of the human resistance, but in the end, they had emerged victorious. "It's over," Sinclair whispered, her voice barely audible above the sounds of the cleanup effort. "We did it, John. We actually did it." Rawlings, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon, nodded slowly. "Yeah, we did, but at what cost?" The losses had been staggering, both in terms of human lives and the destruction of vital infrastructure. Cities lay in ruins, and the global economy had been thrown into chaos. But the people of Earth were resilient, and they were already beginning to rebuild, their eyes filled with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. "We'll recover," Sinclair said, her tone resolute. "We've proven that we're not to be underestimated, and that we're willing to fight for our freedom no matter the cost." Rawlings' lips quirked into a wry smile. "That's one way to put it. I still can't believe we managed to pull it off." As they surveyed the aftermath of the battle, the true scope of their victory began to sink in. The Galactic Council's forces had been decisively defeated, their once mighty armada reduced to little more than scattered debris and drifting wreckage. "They're retreating," Sinclair murmured, her eyes narrowed as she watched the last of the Galactic Council's ships disappear into the vastness of space. "They know they can't win against us now." Rawlings let out a weary chuckle. "I guess they didn't expect us to put up such a fight. Guess they learned the hard way that humanity isn't to be trifled with." As the news of their victory spread across the globe, the people of Earth erupted into a deafening chorus of celebration and relief. Flags were raised, parades were held, and the streets were alive with the sound of laughter and joyous tears. Sinclair and Rawlings, their hearts swelling with a mixture of pride and humility, found themselves at the center of it all. They had been the catalysts, the driving force behind the human resistance, and their actions had not only saved their planet, but had forever changed the course of galactic history. "We did it, John," Sinclair said, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "We proved that humanity is more than just a collection of disparate nations and cultures. We're a force to be reckoned with, a species that will fight tooth and nail to protect our home and our freedom." Rawlings nodded, his own eyes reflecting the same sense of awe and wonder. "And the Galactic Council will never forget it. They know now that we're not to be taken lightly, that we'll stand up and fight back no matter the odds." As the global cleanup and reconstruction efforts began in earnest, the people of Earth found themselves united in a way they had never been before. The shared experience of the battle had forged a bond that transcended borders and cultural divides, and the world was slowly but surely becoming a more cohesive and resilient place. Sinclair and Rawlings, their roles as the leaders of the resistance now firmly cemented in the annals of history, took a step back and watched the progress unfold. They knew that the path ahead would not be an easy one, that the scars of the conflict would take time to heal, but they also knew that humanity was ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. "We're not just a planet anymore, John," Sinclair said, her voice filled with a sense of awe and wonder. "We're a force to be reckoned with in the galactic community, and I can't wait to see what the future has in store for us." Rawlings, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth, nodded in agreement. "You and me both, Emily. This is just the beginning." And as the sun set on a world that had been forever changed by the events of the past, the people of Earth looked to the stars with a newfound sense of hope and determination, ready to take their place among the great civilizations of the galaxy.